Good morning, guys. I'm drawing a graph. Give me just a second. We'll get started here. Good morning. Got 15 people on so far. Twenty folks on. Good morning. Sorry I was running a little late. Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. To the 20 folks that are on this morning. My name is Rich Brown, co-host, co-founder of the American Warrior Society. And if you noticed, a little bit more clean shaven today. I guess that after having a beard for 8 years, you can see I'm respirator ready now. When and if that event occurs. Coffee with Rich. Let me mute that. 20 folks that are on this morning. My name is Rich Brown. I'm running a little weird this morning. I still kind of getting prepared here, so let's see. I appreciate your patience. We'll get it sorted out. Please like, share, comment. Let's see who's on this morning, and before we go any further. Bob is on. Something looks different. Yeah, something's very different. Let's see. Good morning, Gerald. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Rich. Will. Good morning, Raz McDonald. My beautiful daughter Maggie's on. Doug Lightfoot. How you doing up there, guys? Let's see. Adam is on. Good morning. Tom has joined us. 34 folks on. Please like and share. I didn't even put that I was going to be on this morning. Those of you that have been on here for a while, you know that my name's Rich Brown. I'm the co-host of the American Warrior Show, co-founder of the American Warrior Society, retired Marine Corps officer, spent several years in the American Red Cross as the regional manager for disaster preparedness and government operations for the great state of Tennessee. And in that capacity, it was during Ebola when I was there, so we did a lot of work with Ebola. Went to a lot of FEMA classes and got a stack of certificates and all that good stuff, and we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning. As you know, we've almost been talking exclusively Ebola since January the 31st when I first started looking at the data. Please give me, let me know if my volume's okay. Well, the article that I'm going to ask you to check out this morning is the same article I've been begging you to take a look at for some weeks now, and that's COVID-19 preparations and considerations. It's just good all hazards preparedness stuff with a little bit of slant toward pandemic issues, and we put this out a couple weeks ago before all this nuttiness took hold of everybody. Podcasts, I'm going to go back and ask you to listen to podcast 211 and 212. And then we'll have an upcoming 213 coming out real soon. 211 and 212 deal with COVID, and we've been talking about that for some time now. Doug says the volume is good. My good friend Doug Rhines is on. My wife says she wished I'd cut the rest of this facial hair. Not going to happen. Alan says 5 by 5. Okay. Again, please like and share. I want to talk to you a little bit about The gadget I got really is going to be kind of a rambling discussion. Probably going to pull up some of the questions that came in last night on our closed group, and some of them were not so much questions, but they were comments. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of the nerdier side of your old pal Rich Brown here. First, I want to start with a story like we did last week. Last week we talked about Sir Admiral Cloudesley and how that his hubris and his lack of listening to mathematics caused him to smash 4 of his British ships on the rocks and started the Great Britain's hunt for someone that could solve the problem of longitude. And they ultimately figured out how to solve longitude with by a clock. Pretty interesting invention. And now if you go to places like Edinburgh or Halifax, they still do the daily setting of the watches by firing a round into the harbor. They shoot a blank round, and that tells all the ships before they leave the harbor what time to set your fancy clock to that's going to make sure that you have the longitude correctly. Pretty weird, but they're still doing it to this day. I want to talk to you about Ignatius Semmelweis. And if you don't know who Ignatius Semmelweis is, you're not alone, and you should know who he is because he's a very important person. He's one of these tragic figures. He reminds me of Laocoon, who was a Trojan senator, I believe, he said, I fear the Greeks even when they bring gifts. And the Trojans didn't believe it. They're like, what are you talking about? The Greeks want to give us this big fancy horse. We're going to bring it in here. Why, Laocoon, you're such a Debbie Downer, man. Nothing's going to go wrong here. Of course, everyone listening out there knows the rest of the story. Laocoon was right. They should have been afraid of the Greeks because it was the Trojan horse. But Ignatius Semmelweis is one of those tragic figures that was absolutely right. He was spot on and couldn't get anybody to believe him. And Ignatius Semmelweis worked at a women's hospital. It was a training hospital. And one of the things that he noticed was that all these women were dying from something they call childbed fever. And the rates of death among women that were delivering children at this hospital was 3 times that of the midwives out in town. 3 times. And they were supposed to be safer in a hospital, and they weren't. One day, Ignatius Semmelweis, who was, I believe, Austro-Hungarian, don't quote me on that. You can go look up the tragic story of Ignatius Semmelweis for yourself. He noticed one of the doctors dissecting a cadaver cut himself during working on this cadaver and developed the same sort of fever that were killing the women on the OBGYN ward, or whatever they called it back then, child delivery ward. And somewhere along the way, he connected the dots and made a corollary discovery that the doctors that came from dissection without washing their hands and delivered a child, their women were dying. And he tried to explain that, look, guys, if we just washed our hands in, I think it was chlorinated lime, we could probably save these women's lives. He was ridiculed and mocked. Nobody believed him. What are you talking? There's little fairies and witches. What are you saying? That my hands are dirty? I'm a surgeon, pal. You got it all wrong. And so the places that he could get the surgeons to wash their hands, what do you think happened to the women dying? Fell into almost nothing. It wasn't until later that a guy named Lister and Pasteur took those ideas about germs and made them mainstream. And Lister, of course, that's where we get the name Listerine. A little bit of trivia for you there. Thank you to the 43 folks that are on this morning. We're talking about hubris. And I can be guilty of it. Anybody can be guilty of it. It's that certitude that leads you to make some incorrect assumptions, and then the failure to go back and reevaluate yourself. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So poor tragic Ignatius Semmelweis, that's not the end of the story. If you think that Ignatius Semmelweis was hoisted on the shoulders of his fellow surgeons and lauded for the hero that he was, the problem was with Ignatius was he could not explain why it was happening. And they, of course, beat him up for saying, well, you've mistaken, sir, correlation with causation. And perhaps he had, but he had stumbled onto the answer. And they had him committed to an insane asylum because, of course, he's talking about little fairies that might be living on your fingers that could mysteriously and invisibly infect and hurt someone. So they had him committed at age 47 in an insane asylum, and that's where he died. Unlauded and unloved. So thank you to the folks that are on here. I know that we're starting this Coffee with Rich with a very depressing story. Please like and share because it gets happier from here. He's one of my tragic heroes, man. So thanks for joining me this morning. Again, please like and share. This sort of hubris reminds me of many commanders I worked with and for in the Marine Corps. You know, as a staff officer in the Marine Corps, some of it was challenging to try to get these commanders who had been very successful in their careers in the Marine Corps to look at the math and make mathematically based decisions, because these were gut level commanders that had succeeded in combat based upon relying on their gut. And then they come into the realm of recruiting, and they've got this smart ass chief warrant officer that lectures mathematics at the Xerox National Academy, telling them that their intuition is wrong and that they need to rely on the science. And some of these commanders, one in particular, was a gentleman who thought that he could make 2 + 2 = 5. He was certain of it, and he drove his recruiting station off a cliff. And of course, your old pal Rich Brown had to go down, and my colonel said, get in a freaking plane. Don't tell this commander that you're flying into his AO, his area of operation. Just go in there and start collecting evidence. Don't say a word to anybody. That's never happened before to me. So the major rolls out one morning, and I'm in his office making copies. Rich, why are you here? Sir, you're going to have to call the colonel. I couldn't tell you. I'm just a guy doing his job. So here's my point of this. It took us years to fix the damage that he did by believing in intuition and not the facts. Now let's talk about the facts this week, because I'm talking about COVID-19 and I'm talking about hubris. When I built the spreadsheets that I built back in late February, I'm sorry if I didn't come on here and tell you that the mathematics that I saw coming out of this, because I had to dig for those numbers, and I knew those numbers would be wrong. Let's get that out of the way. At the time that I was doing the calculations here, as were many, many, many others, the sample size was so small that I knew the confidence interval would be pretty small, and it wouldn't. And that I knew that as we refine the data would be more, would be a little bit better, more usable. So I made the spreadsheet so that I could correct for percentage of severe cases, percentage of critical cases, percentage of ventilators needed, percentage of numbers of ventilators, because I knew we would start finding ventilators from everywhere, and the DOD coughed up 2,000 that nobody knew they had. But of course, that may just be a drop in the bucket. I knew that case fatality rates and doubling rates and all these other key variables to tracking this would change over time. But I will open up the spreadsheet here. And let's see, according to my math, on January the 29th, we had 12 cases in the United States. And 2 days later, we started talking about COVID. And there were only 12 cases in the entire United States, 327 million people. My math said that we would have 12,288 people with COVID as of yesterday. Going to the Johns Hopkins website, and the U.S. has 14,250. It's actually worse than I thought it would be, by 2,000. Now, of course, at the time that I did this math, I didn't know that we were going to have problems with test kits and confirming cases. I projected that our case fatality rate would be 425, worst case scenario, because I was using a case fatality rate of 3.46. The case fatality rate for the U.S. is actually much more than that. I'm sorry, it's only maybe a little over 100. So the case fatality rate is actually like closer to what it was outside of China back then at a 1.9, so 233. Anyway, I knew this math would have some wild swings, but the trajectory was still on point. So my point is this. like when doing long-range land navigation in the Marine Corps, and we would plot our graphs and do the back azimuth and add the grid to magnetic angle and all this other crap, and you're doing it in a classroom, and then they say load the trucks and go out into the woods, and they drop you off in the middle of nowhere, and you're looking at the math and the graphs you plot, and you go, this doesn't look anything like I thought it was going to look. I must be wrong. My math must be wrong. Oh well, I'll start walking in the direction that my math said to go, and at some point you'll go through a stream. Was I supposed to wade through a stream? Let me look at the map. I don't remember this. We can't be heading for a road intersection because I'm in a stream. What do you mean I'm going to hit a road intersection? We're in a stream right now, Rich. This doesn't feel right. And then lo and behold, we keep walking for another hour or so and we hit the road intersection we're supposed to. It's math, guys. It's a trajectory. Thanks to the 50 folks that are joining me this morning. So anyway, Italy, my math said Italy would be... Actually, as of tomorrow, it said that Italy would have... No, as of yesterday, I'm sorry. As of the 18th, Italy should have 32,000. They got 41. So I won't see if my math is right again until the 21st, when they should have, which is tomorrow, when Italy should have 65, I think. And currently they got 41,000. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Will Italy have 20-something more thousand by tomorrow? Shoot, I hope not. But that's what the math says. But again, Italy, at the time this math was plotting it, this math did not know what things were going to be enacted. So like I've said before, this math only tells a probable future. It's not predicting the future. I'll give you an example, going back to land nav, because it's something I know really well. Although I plotted the course and everything's going great, if I get weirded out and don't want to continue down this path of being across the stream, I can go in another direction. I don't have to keep going this way. I can go another way. And we've taken some pretty weird steps here. I hope they work out for us. As you can see, after 8 years of having this gorgeous beard, I'm hedging my bets. So enough about that. We're going to have a little bit of an open discussion here this morning. I've got some things to talk to you about, but before I go any further, let's see what the comments are. Let's see. John says, sorry I'm late. John, I'm glad you're here. Jared is here. Ted is here. Chris is here. Ed, we're in the Marine together. Good morning, sir. I think I was your instructor at School of Infantry, if I'm not mistaken there, Mr. Scarborough. Tim is here. Jeff is here. American Warrior Society, which my friend Mike Seeklander says, hey folks, hope you are having a great week. Nice to see you on Coffee with Rich. American Warrior Society says, Rich, how do you handle comments like this? I'm not sure if the virus concern is being overhyped or if it's actually more concerning than we think. It is more concerning, and there's some new data coming out. Andrew Branca shared with us last night. It looks like the case fatality rate may be lower than some of the initial, and we knew this. We knew going in that the data was a little bit of dirty data. Wasn't necessarily going to be right, wasn't going to be clean, which, like I said, on my spreadsheet, I made it so that I can change the assumptions as we have a little bit more granularity. But you have to respect the trajectory it's on. And another thing you have to respect is what's hidden inside the case fatality rate is all the efforts of the doctors. It's hidden the fact that ventilators are available. But what happens when the ventilators run out? Will we see the case fatality rate soar? I don't know, man. I'm in this just like you are. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. I'm losing money every single day on the stock market just like everybody is. When I did the math, I didn't run out and pull my money out. What I did was I told my wife and daughter, go start buying these things. Here's a list, go buy them. Wake up. I literally called my wife. She can tell you. So I'm like, what are you doing? I was out of town. I said, I need you to wake up. She said, why? I said, because something's going to happen and you need to start buying stuff because we're not going to be able to get it. And this was weeks before anybody else knew. And Michael tell you, I was sending pictures to him and he's like, what are you doing? Because it's just a sick math problem. I'd never seen anything like this before. And I looked at the math for Ebola when I was with the Red Cross, and I went, eh. I looked at the math with SARS and MERS and went, eh. Because the basic reproductive number wasn't terrifying. The doubling rate wasn't that scary. The case fatality rate wasn't that scary. And with a little bit of containment, it looked like those things would be captured, and they were. And the places that they broke out in took them serious, and the World Health Organization took them serious, and I knew that, okay, they're contained, more or less. It seemed that way. I knew that we weren't doing the right things early on, and this was getting away from people, and those numbers that we look at were higher than they should be, and it was a problem. So, again, you ignore the end of one of my favorite books. There's a chapter in Bill Bryce's book, A Short History of Nearly Everything, where I think Bill Bryce ends the chapter on microbes and viruses by saying, we ignore them at our peril. And that little phrase in that book, which I read probably twice, it's a phenomenal book to make you cocktail party smart. You read that book and it gives you a brief history of nearly everything. You can hit the wave points of a lot of really important things and impress your friends. But that final thing about microbes really stuck out to me. We ignore them at our peril. And I thought, maybe he's on to something. Thank you to the 49 people that are on with me this morning. Paul is on, Robert is on, Donald is on. Mike says, or how about this? Hey guys, ammo is almost too expensive to buy. Where do you suggest I get it? You know, one of the things is, if you're always ready, you don't have to get ready. A friend of mine who's a medical device salesman and a really good guy, really beautiful family. I mean, the guy's ripped. He's a fitness trainer and a medical device salesman. When I started concerning him about COVID in probably early February, late January, and he sells medical devices to pulmonary doctors. He said, oh, the flu? We got it under control, Rich. You can go back to sleep, pal. Go back to sleep there, buddy, because vaccines in clinical trials already, so just let the experts handle it. I'm being humorous. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty damn funny, and he was pretty confident with his opinions. And it turns out, like it was last Friday, my friend called in sick to work, went out and bought himself a handgun and a rifle and some ammo. Another reason I didn't come out and tell everybody what my math was saying and what we were doing here on our farm as far as preparing, is because I was afraid that you would treat me like Leia-kun. You wouldn't believe me, and you would send sea snakes in to kill me and my sons like they did with Leia-kun. And anyway, that's how the story goes. I'm trying to be funny this morning because the situation's a little grim, so let's add a little humor here. Paul is on, good morning, and Randall is on. Matthew, I think that we as a society still need to function. We cannot be in a standstill forever. It needs to be like pumping the brakes on a car when it's going too fast. Yeah, it's interesting, Matthew. I hope you're right, man, and I hope we're pumping them good enough. But there's some positive things coming out of this. Let's not overlook that, and I'll talk about some of the things that we're doing on the farm that are pretty positive. Like I said, I could sit here and cry for all the money that I've lost. And I could easily do that. I could cry for the friends that are losing their jobs and for the people that are losing their jobs. My favorite barbecue place in town put out a really sad post last night about how they're laying people off. This is horrific, and it's affecting everybody. It's affecting me and my family horrifically, and it's affecting people that you know and love. I get it, man. I'm in this with you. Just because we were a few weeks ahead of the curve here doesn't mean that I pulled my money out and I didn't run out and buy masks because I knew they were going to be needed. But I did buy sanitation supplies. I'm not profiteering from them. I got enough for my family to last a couple months because I knew everybody was going to need them. But anyway, yeah, hope so. Christopher says, remember the beard, bro. It's going to be back, I promise you. Jan is on this morning. Good morning, Jan. Or Jan, I'm sorry. Rodney is on, Gerald is on. People are very hard to protect. Smart people are even denying it. Matt, we need to hold tight for a few weeks or two, then go back to work. Look at the infection rate, then pump the brakes. Yeah. Gilly says, good morning. Hi, everyone. Get right with Jesus just in case. John, you should anyway. I don't know what that is. Rasmus, great time to fast and eat less, work out, use toilet paper. Yeah, let's talk about that. Man, that's a great point. It's a good time to work out. Me and my son, we converted a garage into a place to do jiu-jitsu because my BJJ coach, Cody Hudson, weeks ago when I said, I'm not going to do jiu-jitsu until this goes over. I can't bring that virus into my mother, any potentiality for it, although it probably won't won't kill your old pal Rich Brown. I can't do that to my elderly parents who live on our compound here. It wasn't fair to her. So me and my son are training. We're working out together. It's a good time for families to rally to each other. The neighbors work together. I've been, some of the older folks on our street, we've been doing grocery runs for them and making sure that they're safe. TC is on. Good morning, TC. Dr. Fuller, I'm sorry. Jan said, did someone say ammo shortages? How about training with the, yeah. Hey, it's a great time to train with your Cool Fire trainer, guys. If you bought a Cool Fire trainer, sponsor the American War Society, it's a good time to be doing that dry fire, because I didn't go shooting this Wednesday because I'm going to conserve the ammunition that I have. I figure 30 years of training with a handgun, almost, religiously, I think I'm okay. I'm not gonna waste those rounds. And if I have to use more ammo than I had because I didn't run out and panic buy ammo, I'm like, okay, I got what I got. People that are coming in late to the game, they're probably gonna need it. If I shoot up all my supplies, I'm a dead man anyway. Pretty sad. American Warrior Society, my good friend Mr. Mike Seeklander says, hello folks, the best defense host together a few days ago and discussed the stuff Rich and I will be releasing on podcast today. Yeah, Mike Seeklander, Rob Pincus, Michael Bain, Mike Janich all got together and had a alumni from the Best Defense roundtable discussion about preparedness for COVID-19 as well as other pandemics. It's a really good, I listened to it last night. We're going to put that out as a podcast. I think Mike got permission to do that. So you definitely want to check that out. Greg is on, morning all. Rich shaved his beard. This is positive. Let's see. Wow, lots of comments here this morning. I'm going to skim through them because I want to get into the rest of the stuff here. How would you rate the government's response so far on a scale between 1 to 10? I was very critical early on of the government's response. I don't think it was enough. History will tell what they've done, better than anything I can do. I would have shut the whole place down, and then we could have walked out in the sunlight as a nation and started rebuilding. And just, the economy is going to be in a mess when we come out into the sunlight. But to me, that seemed to be the only thing we had. Let certain critical infrastructure continue to move and everybody else hunker down. That's not what happened. We did sort of a hybrid of that, and I pray that it works out. I know that we've got really good minds working on a potential vaccine and other cures. I have really good confidence on some of the things I'm hearing coming out, because there's some drugs that hold a lot of promise, and you're hearing a lot more about them now, so I don't have to go into a lot of that. TC says, nice shave, welcome to the club, yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. So some of the things that we're doing, we talked about how the neighbors are kind of coming together a little bit more here where I live, and that's a good thing. We took the generators out a couple weeks ago, changed the oil in them, gassed them up, went out and filled up everything I could put gas in to run a generator if need be. Again, a little bit of preparedness now goes a long way. We put, I have 2 deep freezes out in the garage. I can't really protect those out there, so we put hasps on them. We're getting ready to plant crops. Where we live used to be the University of Tennessee's agricultural annex where they raised potatoes. So the ground here is great for raising potatoes. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to put in a big crop of potatoes, and it can help feed our neighbors or what have you. These are just good practices. When I inherited this old farmhouse from my grandparents, I found in there a certificate given to my great-grandmother, Beatrice Elise Castile. And Beatrice had been given this award from the President of the United States, from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, some auto pen signature on it. But it said that he was awarding this to her for feeding her family. 85% of all the food that they ate as a family, it came from her family garden. And he wanted to let her know that she was doing her part during the Depression to help. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We used to reward that kind of stuff. Now we don't want you planting a crop. We want you to be on the manufactured farms teat. But we're going to try to, pull out of that a little bit more and maybe be a little bit more self-sustained. We've got a pond here on the farm. I never thought of stocking it with fish before, but maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we do that. Another thing that concerns me with the supply chain, you'll hear people in these folks that come on and they'll say, there's not a lot of slack in our supply chain. And what they mean by that is, I have a green belt in Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma is a manufacturing methodology that we used in the military, that they use in aviation, that they use in a lot of different places, in hospitals, to make them more effective and efficient. And one of the things that you learn in Lean Six Sigma is you want to cut out WIP. WIP stands for work in production. You want to get that down so that your factory is running as lean and profitable as possible. So when an event like this happens, there's not a whole lot of excess that can quickly be mobilized to get out there, because we're running lean. And in normal times, 99.9% of the time, that's a great thing. But then you have a black swan event like we're living through. And if you haven't read The Black Swan, I highly encourage you to read it. It's a really good book about these, how do you respond to these highly improbable events. Really interesting book. But anyway, so because there's not a lot of work in production, a lot of WIP, when you have panic buying like we've had, then guess what? It's going to take a while to get back out to you. Then you add a lockdown or a shutdown on top of that. There's nobody to make those things and nobody to ship those things, and we have a bigger problem. Let's see, Doug says, both my daughters have lost their jobs, and my youngest daughter just found out she's pregnant with her first child. Yet they will make it through this. A few weeks of shutdown to severely curtail the spread of this virus is mere inconvenience if it keeps us from experiencing what Italy is going through. Yeah, man, I totally agree with that. I told my son to quit his job, and my oldest son is sitting on the couch doing cybersecurity research for one of the national labs here and getting paid for it. It wasn't like they said, yeah, Grant, we don't need you. Sit on the couch and do nothing. They're like, no, research this. This is a cybersecurity problem, and maybe you can sit there on your couch and help us solve it. So that's what my son is doing, and working on a paper to publish. So we can all do our part, and you're absolutely right. So all my family, nobody's working, except for me working from home, but we're all in, man. And we make a run into town maybe once or twice a week, and we use some really good protocols when we do go into town. We've also done something like my oldest daughter Maggie, my youngest daughter Maggie, she calls it the CCC, the Coronavirus Crafters Club. I love that, because what they're doing is they're doing crafts together. She's taught herself how to crochet from home and knit from home. This is amazing, okay? So this doesn't have to be doom and gloom. And I told her, I said, what this reminds me of? It reminds me of your ancestors, Maggie, that went out and joined the Civilian Conservation Club, the CCC, during the Depression, and helped build roads and bridges and the Appalachian Trail and all these amazing things that we take for granted today. Well, the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, did this during the Depression. They were out there building infrastructure. And then when the World War II came along, the same men that had performed so well in the CCC became soldiers and went off to fight Nazism and fascism, and smashed it, by the way. She had no idea that her 3-letter acronym had that association, and I think that's pretty cool. And somebody said, our great-grandparents and our grandparents were called upon to get off the couch and fight Nazism and the spread of Japanese imperialism, and we're called to sit on the couch. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm using a dry erase board. I mounted it in the kitchen, and we use that dry erase board to assign daily tasks. In nonverbal communication, I've assigned every person in our household a role to play. I've assigned a chief of staff. That's my beautiful wife. I've assigned somebody in charge of supply and food. I've assigned somebody to medical and sanitation, as well as my oldest son to defense, safety, and security. And we have morning meetings, and we're treating this I was in in case you couldn't tell, I was in the Marine Corps for 23 years, was a staff officer for, a decade, and I can run a staff. And I'm just treating it just like that. And when this is over, we'll burn that dry erase board and never talk about it again. But, another thing that I went out and did kind of early was I changed the oil in my car and put new tires on it. Because again, the scarcity of supplies, I knew there was no WIP in the supply chain, and that we're going to see disruptions in the supply chain. Do a SWOT analysis. Please go back, like I said at the beginning. The article that I'm advising you to look at this morning is Covid-19 Preparations and Considerations. You can find it at AmericanWarriorShow.com. If you click on there, click on show number 212, and there's a link to it. And it's 12 pages of everything that you should be doing. And the first thing you should do is a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's a little quick matrix that you put together. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Where are the opportunities? And what are our potential threats? And how do we mitigate those threats? So please do that. Let's see here. That's really about all I have for you. I just wanted to do a little discussion about what we're doing here on the farm, some of the things that we're considering. One of the things that concerns me, I mean, here, pick your panic, man. What do you want to freak out about? I'm not telling you to freak out, man. I've been telling you, me and Mike have been telling you for years. It's about preparation, not about panic or fear. And if you've been prepared, then this is just another day for you, okay? It's just another day. You just got to wash your hands more and use lotion if your hands are cracking a little bit. And another thing is they're not explaining how hand washing works. And that's weird to me. You know, the fats in the soap literally disintegrate those little lipid fats that encase that virus and just literally blow it apart if you wash for 20 seconds or more. So if they would just explain, you say these things flippantly, they're policymakers: wash your hands like I'm a child. Explain the why and you'll have my attention. You know, Mike and I teach a firearms instructor development class, and we talk about how it all starts with the why. If you communicate the why, you're more apt to get people to buy in. If you just tell them and you don't give them the why, then they're never going to understand why it's important, and they may not listen to you. So any questions for me before I jump off? Wow, 69 folks on this morning. We've been on here for quite a while. I know we all got, well, maybe we don't have much things to do. If you got any questions, lay it on me before I jump off here. Donald says, the military taught me how to be a prepper. Gerald says, tips for people in the cities. Aaron Bolden says, hello there, madam. Okay. So how much are wanting for the fridge? Oh, my 2 deep freezers with halves on them, not for sale. And that's another thing, you know, we've had for years, I don't get my eggs from in town. I've found a lady, a friend of ours, that has her own fresh eggs, and we've continued that relationship now. We exchange things for her. She gives us eggs. I've got a guy, my buddy Ricky down the road, that slaughters his own grass-fed and grass-finished beef. Now I said, hey Ricky, how about I just buy half of one of your cows when you take it to market next month, and get about 500 more pounds for the freezer. I'm going to eat the stuff, guys. It's not like it's going to go to waste. It's going to be eaten, I promise you. So we're just leaning in a little bit as far as longer term, you know, like I said, planting crops next month. We'll probably get our own laying hens, even though we'll continue the relationship up there. So we're doing what we can. Let's see. Christopher Press says, good morning, Rich from Brooklyn. Good morning, Chris. I worry about you guys up there inside the city, man. My prayers are with you folks up there. Rich, what should we be doing if we are working from home and have a 4-year-old running around? God bless, brother. I don't know. I was telling my wife this yesterday. I said, thank God our kids are all adult children, because a lot of my friends and family have very young ones at home. And it's a challenge to communicate to those young ones what's going on right now. It's very difficult. I understand that. And my heart goes out to you. We are very, very fortunate here on the farm. Our ages of our children that are home are between 17 and 22. And they are a valuable asset right now. David said the wife will always be in charge. Yeah, she's my chief of staff, man. She gets a vote on everything that's going on here. Donald says, I think you can squeeze another award on the wall, sir. Yeah. Jen says, tires and oil. I'm doing that today. Yeah, I'll tell you, the thing about tires, I really didn't mention this. Consumer Reports did a test. They looked at 72 different tires tested. This was in 2016, and found that none of them were made in the United States of America. Not a single one. Of the 72 that they tested in 2016, no tires were made in the United States of America. So I needed tires anyway. I probably could have got another 1,000 miles out of them, but I'm like, you know what, man? Let's get the tires now. Let's change the oil now. Let's do preventive maintenance on our vehicles now, right? Not that I intend on bugging out anywhere. This is a situation where you bug in, but if you can do preventive maintenance while you're sitting around at the house, by all means, do it. Now's the perfect time. Let's see. Chris said, "What's the farm address?" Asking for a friend. Yeah, I'm not giving it out, man. I love y'all, but and we do have 14 acres here. We've got on our little compound. My dad lives in a house on the farm. We've got a guest house on the farm. And here's another interesting thing with our guest house. I'm actually in our guest house right now. We're treating it as a vacation spot. It was the place where my son lived at while he was in grad school. But now we're turning it into the getaway spot. So if you want to go on a vacation during the COVID, you just pack your suitcase literally and we come over here and it's a place to get away. So if you have those things, maybe it's a den in your room. Maybe you keep that special and you go in there and you have a glass of wine, listen to a good record or something, and get away from it. I think it's a good idea to take these mental health breaks. And you got to step away from this news like I have and stop looking at your spreadsheets like I do. Gilly said, my girlfriend used to laugh at me stocking up on supplies, ammo. She hates guns, but she still learned though. Now she ain't laughing now. We're sort of ready, yeah. Gilly says, Washington's important as medical practitioner. We're taught that. Donald says, sir, do you put moonshine in your coffee? You know what's a good point, man? Donald brings up a good point. And I'm going to tell you right now, you want to be as healthy as you possibly can. If you're a smoker, stop smoking. If you're a boozer, cut back. I enjoy having a scotch or a bourbon. About 5 nights a week, I'll have 3 ounces of booze. And I've cut that back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll have 3 ounces of booze. Because one of the things that I'm reading is how damaging this disease is on the liver. Now, here's another thing. I should have said this up front. I understand, to the 70 folks that are on here right now, I understand I'm too emotionally close to this problem because 5 years ago, my sister died of the same exact thing that's killing the COVID people. The people that are dying from COVID, most of them are dying from ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. So when I heard that and I'm looking at the math, I had a double anxiety of the problem because I watched my sister. She was a nurse. She had a bachelor's in nursing from the University of Tennessee. She was captain of the cheerleading team, captain of the volleyball team. She was a very brilliant mathematician. She took all the higher level math that the University of Tennessee had just for fun. She would sit down and do 36-page calculus problems in different color ink because that's where mine works. She was a beautiful, brilliant woman, and I love her. So when the doctor said that her oxygen saturation was wrong and that she wasn't going to make it, and we decided to pull the vent tube out, I thought they got to be wrong. They said she will die within 15 minutes. And I said, you're probably wrong, okay? You don't know my sister. She's going to be okay. I thought that in the back of my mind. Although science told me I was probably wrong, I hoped for some different outcome. So when they pulled the tube, she did pass away in 15 minutes, almost to the minute. They were right. So that's why I defer to the medical professionals that are saying what's going on right now. And I realize I'm probably emotionally too close to this right now. But I also look at the math on it, and then I have my emotional reaction to the math. So it's bringing up some memories, as you can tell. All right, let's see what the other comments are, and then I'm going to get off here. I promise. Let's see. So if be healthy as you can be, boost your immune system, work out at home. You can do body weight squats. You can do push-ups. You can do a lot of things. If you got a lot of acres like we have here, you can go for a walk or a jog. That's what we did last night. Put our headlamps on and we walked around the property. It was beautiful. Let the air hit us. It was nice. All right, let's see. Andrew says, how much for the fridge? Yeah, right behind no one understood why I prep. Now they do, yeah. Bo, good morning. Rasmic, 7 Warriors on. Jan says, wash my hands away. I scrub lead off your hands after a range session. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Those of us that have been shooting high round count shooting, man, we know that you got to get that lead off there. It is poison. Your advice for those without a farm. I am prepped, but others, yeah, it is a problem. And the friends of mine that moved into the suburbs, we got out of the suburbs when we could and retired up here. We live on top of the Cumberland Plateau, almost at 2,000 feet. The air is a little cleaner, a little clearer up here. People a little bit more self-reliant. We didn't see panic buying up here when you couldn't get toilet paper in Nashville or Knoxville. You certainly could here on the Cumberland Plateau. People were going about their business because they're self-sustaining. They already have farms. They're not freaking out. I don't know what to tell you, man. If you live in an apartment or stuff, I mean, my heart goes out to you. You know, you are having a whole different problem set than I am, and I can't even begin to fathom what you must be thinking right now. But again, there's things we can all do. Please take those precautions. Ted says, maybe I will not be a standing joke for a long-time prep or want to be the biggest lesson. Easy to go wrong in directions and expand and scary, yeah. Philip has joined us. Doug says, container gardening is available no matter where you live. You can supplement your food. Yeah, let me give you an example of that. So my good friend Justin Carroll, he was a MARSOC operator and a contractor for some 3-letter agencies. I wouldn't call him a prepper by any stretch of the imagination, but him and his girlfriend are working from home, and we've been talking back and forth as far as crops. He built some seed beds, and he's got some red solo cups with seeds, and they're starting to germinate, so that when April the 15th comes and we go out to plant our crops, I've got my tiller already hooked up on my tractor. I'm ready to go. I can start dropping those plants in, and we'll be good to go. Now, is that overkill? And I hope it is. I really hope it is. But we're going to do a garden anyway, and instead of using half our garden plot this year, we'll probably use the whole plot. And what we don't eat, we can give to our neighbors, man. Chelsea says, better listen to some Judas Priest. Absolutely. Chris says, thanks for putting this together, Rich. I appreciate your insight and your willingness to share your knowledge. Have a fantastic day on the farm. Thanks, brother. Dallas is on. Good morning. Yeah, Jan is giving out the P.O. box. Yeah, go. You can find my P.O. box online. Go there and stand and see when I show up. TC said, that's weird. I've been thinking your guest house is my vacation spot. Yeah, TC has stayed in the guest house here on the farm. It was good to have you, Dr. Fuller. You're welcome back anytime. Matthew says, people should look into UV cleaners. I got a CPAP cleaner and a sanitizer, all kind of things. UV cleaners, yeah, it's funny, man. Because Mike and I were so far out in front of this thing, doctors have reached out to me, all kinds of planners, I shouldn't say all kinds, a few planners have reached out to me, and because we've been talking about this since late January. I went back yesterday and looked into archives when we started chatting about this. I had a guy who's on the board of a municipal water supply reach out to me about UV cleaners and asking if they were kill COVID. Man, I have no idea. I'm just a guy that can do some math. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this, yeah, you know, I lectured the mathematics behind Marine Corps mission planning at the Xerox National Academy. You know, I remember when I took over as a planner one time in the Marine Corps, and my first day on the job, all these senior officers were in the room, and they had their calculators out doing this and writing notes. And I'm like, sir, what's going on? It's like, well, the outgoing planner, his math was wrong, and now we have to scramble to explain to the general and everybody why at the end of the year all of our projections were wrong. And I looked at that and I was like, man, I'm never going to be there, because I'm sure his fitness report's going to suck leaving this command because his math was wrong. So for the 3 years I was there, my math wasn't wrong. And matter of fact, at my going away, my retirement celebration, I had bagpipers and stuff. It was pretty cool. The colonel said, well, Rich, we know we used your math to get us here over the past 3 years, and we're going to keep using your math even after you're gone. So like I said, this is something that I do in my spare time, and I wish I'd started calculating this back in late January, but I didn't. I came into it in late February when I started really building my own spreadsheets. And I knew the assumptions would be wrong. And I knew the case fatality rates, the percentage of severe cases, and all these things, the bed spaces. I knew all that would be weird and wrong, but it wouldn't be orders of magnitude wrong. So I built my spreadsheet so I could change the variables and update them as we get better, cleaner data. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Oh, and as far as the CPAP, I have great hope that one of the doctors that reached out to me, he said I'm not allowed to say his name. I've asked him to be on the show, but all I can say is a doctor friend of mine from Boston. Shout out to you if you're out there watching, sir. He said that, mechanical ventilation is very invasive. You know, sticking a tube down people's throat, that could be a problem, for a whole host of reasons. So they're looking at some ways to do non-invasive ventilation with like a CPAP machine. like Matthew brought up. So I have great hope for that. If we don't have enough mechanical ventilators, which I don't think we will, 62,188 was a study of mechanical ventilators done 10 years ago. DOD found another 2,000, and we're manufacturing now probably as fast as we can, although I don't know what that really looks like, how fast you can build those things, or where they're coming from. But I have great hope for being able to ventilate people, because one of the problems with, if you just look at the case fatality rate and you get excited and you go, wow, look, man, the case fatality rate is looking better all the time. That's because we have access to ventilators. What happens when we run out of that? What does the case fatality rate look like then? I don't know. If the basic reproductive rate stays as what it is, that's a problem. You know, we're going to continue to infect each other. Now that they found out that the virus can last up to 3 hours in the air post-aerolization, so post the cough and the droplets flying around through the air, it doesn't die within minutes. It's out there for 3 hours moving around. If you haven't read that research, please do so. It hasn't been peer-reviewed, I don't think, but still, it's something to pay attention to. Donald says, I'm a cancer survivor and I understand the anxiety. I just turn it over to Jesus. Maybe that's the right answer, man. I know that I'm praying as much or more than I used to. Ted said, hard to store coffee long-term. Instant beans are only... We've got a little bit of both, man. We found some really good... You know, when this Wuhan thing broke out, this Chinese virus broke out, we were overseas. We were in Europe. And I remember kind of watching it because it wasn't being covered in the U.S., but it was being covered a little bit more in Europe. And so I remember seeing it. We brought back a lot of the instant coffee that we can only get in Europe, and we've got that on our shelves in our pantry now, along with the regular coffee. So we've got a little bit of both. Thanks for joining us today, guys. I'm going to finish up these comments. Tammy says, my reservations on the farm got canceled this month. I'm first on the list. Missed you guys. Bo says, good morning. John says, green beans are better for coffee storage. I'm going to look into that. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I like the idea. Lisa says, I'm still sad about that. You are definitely first on the list. Bill says she was a beautiful person, brother. Yeah, Bill's talking about my sister, man. It was awful. We use that last experience to survive, no matter how tragic or personal. It makes us stronger. Roman says, enjoying watching you, cousin Rich. Gene says, just got here. What did I miss? Go back and watch. Philip says, hey, Rich, good to see and hear you. I hope you and Lisa are praying for y'all. My plan was to move, have to wait for the market now, yeah. I was raised in East Tennessee, beautiful area. Ted says, it took 4 years of planting twice to learn the basics of veggie farming. Paul says, 2 years ago, I started canning fruits and veggies. Dennis has joined us. Gerald says, great project for the kids. Ted said, read the directions. Most cleaners require a time period for sitting to work before wiping. Yeah, most people spray and wipe. You're right. You got to let it sit for a bit. Ted, those butter bars, land nav is something else. Hey, man, that was one of the few things I was ever good at. I've said this many times. I'm not good at most anything. I literally, you don't even want me changing a light bulb. I might screw it up. But when it comes to land navigation, shooting, and a few other things, I mean, that's really all I was ever good at. Yeah, Dennis says CPAPs are not supposed to be used because it aerolizes the air. And Dennis is a nurse, and Dennis knows all about it. And like I said, Dennis, this is something coming from a doctor friend in Boston on something that they're supposedly working on. I use the word CPAP. It's not a CPAP. It's something that's supposed to be less invasive than mechanical ventilation. It's way above my pay grade. I shouldn't even be talking about it. This is just something that he shared with me on the phone the other night, so I'm not sure, bro. Jan says, about caffeine, any experience with SodaStream from home soda maker? Nah, man, I don't. No. Mike says, in and out with you, be well, yeah. Okay, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks to all the folks that joined me this morning, man. It's great having you here on Coffee with Rich. This doesn't have to be a doom and gloom time. A lot of beautiful things can come out of this time if you stay home with your family and you guys put in the time, put in the effort to prepare your place. I look at it like I don't really give a crap about where the hockey puck is today. It's where's the puck going. And I think that's what I'm looking at, second and third order effects. That's why I got new tires before everybody else probably did, because my pantry was already stocked. I already had everything I needed because I saw where this was going. Now I'm doing some other things. that may seem a little radical. I really don't want to talk about them on the show, because just like I didn't want to tell you what I was seeing 2 months ago, you might have called me crazy. But I will share with you my concern briefly, and then I'll jump off here, I promise. So one of the things every year we used to do with regard to mission planning is we would meet in the Hotel La Pavilion in New Orleans for a wonderful 3-day conference to talk about math. And in this 3-day planning conference, we would argue for 3 days. All these senior officers would yell at each other for 3 days about an algorithm, because the algorithm was extremely important as to how we did our mission planning for the year. And we would meet in the La Pavilion, and every night we'd go to Yo Mama's Burgers and eat a really good burger. This was right after Katrina. We'd get a couple of those hand grenades on Bourbon Street and just have a good time. And at the La Pavilion Hotel, they have a tradition of serving, it's a beautiful hotel, they have a tradition of serving peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to the folks staggering back from the French Quarter. And then the next morning we'd go and argue about the algorithm again, and what value this has to have, and what this variable's impact would be on this other thing. And every year we kind of clean the slate and looked at the algorithm all over again. Well, one year I go to this mathematical planning conference and there's 2 Navy doctors there. I went over and introduced myself, and I said, "Hey, sir, my name's Chief Warrant Officer Brown from Parris Island." He goes, "Oh, I'm from Parris Island." I was like, "Sir, what are you doing here?" "I'm the Senior Medical Officer from Parris Island." I'm like, "Why are you here to talk about our mathematical algorithm? What does that have to do with you?" And he said, "Well, I'm afraid that you Marines are going to do something crazy." I said, "Sir, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, I know that the Congress says that the Marine Corps has to grow, and that you guys are probably going to cram all the recruits you can into the squad base to grow the Marine Corps because Congress says you have to. And we're here to say you can't cram them in." I said, "Sir, what are you talking about?" He says, "Every recruit has to have so much square feet to live in, and if we change that variable by just a little, contagious disease spreads rapidly. So we're here to let you know there's a firm line for how tight you can pack these people." It's the first I'd ever thought about that. And I went, So every time we would start talking, they would look at their notes and go, "No, it's too many." So we had to slow roll that growth over time so that we didn't cause an outbreak of communicable diseases in our recruit depots. That's something I'd never thought about, which is why you're seeing the Bureau of Prisons and other correctional facilities early release inmates, because they know that they've been overcrowded for years. And if something like COVID gets inside, and there's already been one case inside of Rikers Island, look it up, it's a 30-something-year-old guy. It may be more as of today. I think I saw this a day or two ago. But there's a finite amount of space, and if you get people in too close contact, the outbreak is going to be more severe. So they're looking at this. The problem is when you let those people out, and there's no job for them to go to, my fear is they will go back to their old predatory ways. So safety and security is also something that I'm doing in conjunction with my crops. Not just protecting my crops, but protecting our family and our infrastructure. So something for you to consider as we move forward through this together. Andrew, good morning, man. You missed a good show. Matt says, "I hear you." All right, guys, that's really all I got. Go back and check it out if you... Anyway, folks, stay safe, and remember, the fight is coming. Be ready.